Adobe. It's the world's leading name in creative software, powering everything from Hollywood blockbusters to your favorite YouTube videos. But beneath the surface, there's a darker story. Adobe's practices have grown so controversial that even the US government has sued them. Let's dive into why Adobe has earned the title of one of the most controversial companies today. Before we go on, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. It's one of the best ways you can support the channel and help others find this video. Adobe's subscription nightmare. To understand the controversy, we first need to ask, what exactly does Adobe do? Well, they create iconic creative software, Photoshop, Illustrator, After Effects, and more. These programs have become staples for professionals and amateurs alike. But if we go back in time, things were very different. There was a time when you could walk into a store, buy a physical copy of Photoshop for around $700, and that was it. You owned it. If Adobe released a new version, you could upgrade for a fraction of that price, around $200. People loved Adobe, and their reputation was stellar. But then everything changed. Adobe's executives realized they could make a lot more money by switching their business model. Have you noticed how most software today is sold via subscription? Adobe was one of the pioneers of this approach. Instead of buying their Creative Suite outright, Adobe customers are now forced into a subscription model. Subscriptions seem cheap up front. People see the low monthly cost and think it's a great deal. But over time, those subscription payments add up to much more than a one-time purchase ever would. Adobe soon stopped selling perpetual licenses and made everything subscription only. Their profits soared. But Adobe also gained something else: control. With a subscription, Adobe keeps control over the software you're using, and they're not afraid to remind you who's boss. Customers started receiving letters saying their older versions of Adobe products were no longer licensed for use. If they continued using them, they might even face legal claims for copyright infringement. Why? Adobe never gave a clear explanation. The US government steps. In these shady business practices have finally caught up with Adobe. Today, Adobe finds itself in hot water with the US government, but it's not for the reason you might think. It's all about Adobe's deceptive subscription practices. Here's how it works. Adobe offers an annual plan billed monthly. Sounds straightforward, right? Except many users who signed up thought they were getting a month-to-month deal. The truth? It's a yearly commitment. If you want to cancel early, Adobe hits you with a hefty cancellation fee, 50% of the remaining subscription, which can be hundreds of dollars. Adobe's fine print doesn't make this clear up front. Many users are blindsided when they try to cancel and find themselves stuck with a massive fee. And to make matters worse, Adobe doesn't allow you to simply turn off auto renew. To escape the subscription, you have to cancel the entire plan, triggering the dreaded fee. This business model has caught the attention of the Federal Trade Commission, which is now taking legal action against Adobe. But here's the kicker. They aren't just targeting the company. They're going after individual executives. Specifically, Adobe's president and vice president of digital media are being held accountable for these deceptive practices. AI, copyright, and creative theft. As if that wasn't bad enough, Adobe is now embroiled in another controversy, one that strikes at the heart of the creative community. Like other tech giants, Adobe has jumped into the AI game, integrating AI-generated images into their stock library and training their own AI tools. But here's the problem. Adobe's AI needs vast amounts of data to learn, and that's where things get ugly. In the fine print of their Creative Cloud subscription, Adobe quietly included a clause giving them permission to access and use your content. That means any artwork, photos, or designs you store in their cloud could be analyzed by Adobe to train their AI. Worse yet, Adobe claimed a non-exclusive, royalty-free license to use and display that content. This is a nightmare scenario for creators. Imagine working on a confidential project only to find out that Adobe has access to your files and could be using them to train its AI. And if you thought this couldn't get worse, Adobe's stock library has become flooded with low-quality AI-generated images, many of which blatantly copy existing works. This situation has led to a worldwide boycott of Adobe by artists and creators. Many have even taken to uploading poisoned files to Adobe's servers, files designed to corrupt AI training data. Adobe, after receiving immense backlash, was forced to change its terms. They now claim they no longer scan or use your content without permission, but the damage has been done. Trust in Adobe has been shattered. All these controversies have tarnished Adobe's reputation. Once seen as the gold standard for creative software, Adobe is now viewed by many as a greedy corporation with unethical practices. But what's most surprising is how little Adobe seems to care about its customers. Their cancellation fees make up less than 1% of their revenue, according to Adobe. So why hold on to them? The answer is simple. Adobe's business thrives on keeping customers trapped. By making the cancellation process difficult, they can boast low churn rates to investors and keep their subscription revenue flowing. But customers aren't sitting idly by. The creative industry is starting to move away from Adobe's software. Alternatives like DaVinci Resolve for video editing and Affinity Photo for image editing are gaining popularity. Adobe may be a giant, but its reign over the creative world might finally be coming to an end. For years, Adobe has been the dominant force in creative software, but the tides are shifting. The market is correcting itself, and customers are exploring alternatives. Perhaps, finally, Adobe will have to change its ways. Whether or not that happens remains to be seen. If you want to stay updated on more deep dives and exclusive tech insights, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Until then, I'm your host, and I'll see you in the next video.